My name is Farooq Ullah. I'm the Executive Director of Stakeholder Forum for a Sustainable Future, or just Stakeholder Forum. Our mission is to advance sustainable development, which we do through good governance and participatory decision-making, which in plain language means helping stakeholders who have a stake in the decisions which are being made at global levels get involved and help shape those decisions. Well, it ranges quite a lot. The big thing, of course, is how do we actually make these decisions which are being made in the name of the people more inclusive, more participatory, more transparent. The systems, of course, governance that we have around the world are generally around representative democracy or even less so. So the question is, how do you take one form of government and apply it to a much more open and transparent system of decision-making, which allows all people to get involved in the process without slowing it down to the point of indecision and paralysis, but of course allowing for diversity and plurality of views to be incorporated in the final outcomes. In that sense, the injustices, of course, become the barriers for participation for stakeholders from around the world, which vary quite a lot. Anything from a lack of governance models which allow participation to the lack of funding and financing for people to come to, say, the UN headquarters in New York to be a part of the process, to issues around capacity and knowledge and awareness of the stakeholder community, to just the fact that sometimes governments want to make these decisions in a very closed door, behind the scenes way, and they don't want that kind of scrutiny from stakeholders that would be involved in having such an open participatory decision-making process. Well, that's a challenging and complex question with an equally challenging and complex answer. There is a tension between the need for more transparency of public policy decision-making, but also the political demands on governments to sort of actually try to pursue their own political positions without giving away too much to other governments and, of course, to the general public. So in that sense, there is a barrier for stakeholder participation and greater openness with regards to the fact that the negotiations at the United Nations, for example, quite often tend to be most productive when they are as closed door and secretive as possible. Contradictory to that, the more open and more participatory the discussions are, quite often the more bland and less pointed and less sort of effective they become. So how do you balance that tension and try to sort of bring down those barriers of participation to make sure that these decision-making processes are participatory, but at the same time have them still be effective decision-making systems which actually deliver results? This is a challenging question. Of course, as a sustainable development purist, my answer is sometimes something that others don't approve of. I don't actually think that sustainable development is a cause for the environment. I think it's a cause for fairness. The environmental issues that we grapple with are a product of unfair, unjust, and unequitable behavior that's come to date. And in fact, I go on to characterize 4 types of fairness, which I think are very relevant. There's interpersonal fairness, so between individuals, issues of civic and human rights, the ability to sort of participate and have it as a fair share of resources, but also a fair say in decision-making processes. The second type of fairness is intersocietal, so between groups and countries. How do we access resources? How do we avoid discrimination, etc.? The third type is interbiological, which is, of course, that we are not the only species or living organism on the planet. We therefore have a duty to look after all of these other organisms and ensure that they have a future as well. Of course, as we all know, the greater the biodiversity of the planet, the greater likelihood of our own success. And the last important element is the temporal dimension of intergenerational fairness, in that we would be unfair and unjust to eat all the fish in the ocean or cut down all the trees in the forest to make ourselves healthy and prosperous now in this slice of time, thereby leaving nothing for future generations to not only prosper on, but even survive on. And so in that sense, the vision for a just future is one that is fair, including this element of ecological and biodiversity fairness as well.